Look at me. I'm sharp, I'm focused, and I'm operating at a level most people only read about in books. But here's the truth nobody wants to post on social media. Not long ago, I was a ghost. I was waking up at noon, scrolling through other people's lives for 6 hours, and drowning in the invisible rot. On paper, I looked fine. In reality, I was a slave to cheap dopamine and a coward when it came to real work. That was my rock bottom. So when people ask me, how do I change my life? I don't give them some motivational garbage about finding your passion or positive thinking. I don't have to guess what works. I lived the transformation. I clawed my way out of that mental hole by following a specific 21-day rescue mission. Here is the truth most people don't understand. Your biggest problem isn't your lack of talent or your genetics. Your problem is that you don't have a plan. You're making it up as you go, copying what stagnant people do, and wondering why you stay invisible. I'm about to give you the exact protocol I used to become a stranger to my own past. This will be the most uncomfortable 3 weeks of your life, but by the end, you won't even recognize the person in the mirror. No excuses, just a plan. Let's begin. To change your life, you have to stop the bleeding. Most people think they need more motivation, but the truth is they're simply leaking focus like a severed artery. We begin on day 1 with the dopamine funeral. Just as I would sell a car, I couldn't afford to save my financial life. You must execute the things that are killing your spirit. You're going to write down every single habit that drains your time, every mindless scroll, every notification, every just one more episode. Then you cut them all. Delete the apps that turn your brain into mush. If I can live on rice and beans for a year to reclaim my freedom, you can live without a TikTok feed for 21 days. This isn't about being productive, yet it's about stopping the invisible rot that makes you a slave to your own screen. Most people will cry that they deserve to relax or that they'll miss out. That is the voice of the person who stays stagnant. The only thing you deserve right now is to stop being average. Every hour you waste on cheap entertainment is $100,000 in potential you're flushing away. By clearing the clutter today, you free up the mental energy you require for the next 20 days. You aren't losing anything. You are buying back your soul. This is the surgical first step. You are burying the old version of yourself so that something stronger can breathe. No more half measures. No more tomorrow. The funeral starts now. Once the funeral for your distractions is over, the silence can be terrifying. But that silence is where your new life begins. Most people lose the day before they even get out of bed. They wake up at the mercy of the world, reacting to emails and notifications like a puppet on a string. We end that today. Welcome to the 5 a.m. resurrection. This isn't about being a morning person. It's about a calculated seizure of power. By waking up when the rest of the world is still dreaming of success, you buy yourself a 4-hour head start that no one can take away. These early hours are your monk mode. This is when you do the deep, grueling work that makes everyone else uncomfortable. While your competitors are still hitting snooze, you are already 2 hours deep into your physical and mental conditioning. You don't negotiate with the alarm clock. In 1962, I didn't have the luxury of feeling like working. I worked because the alternative was failure. You must treat 5 a.m. with that same level of survivalist urgency. This routine is the foundation of your new emergency wall. It is the structural steel of your character. If you can control the first 4 hours of your day, you can control the outcome of your year. You are creating a gap between you and the average version of yourself that will eventually become an unbridgeable canyon. The world belongs to those who show up early with a plan. You've stopped the bleeding. Now you start the climb. The sun hasn't even risen yet, and you're already winning. You have the time and you have the focus, but you cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. Most of you are trying to change your lives while fueling your bodies like literal garbage. You complain about lack of willpower, but the truth is your brain is drowning in inflammation. You can't think clearly because your engine is filled with sludge. To become unrecognizable, you must perform a metabolic reset. This isn't a diet for vanity. It is a surgical cleaning of the biological machine that produces your thoughts. For the next 18 days, you treat your body like a high-performance laboratory. You cut the processed sugars and the chemical-laden convenience foods that keep you lethargic and easily manipulated. You flood your system with hydration and whole, nutrient-dense fuel. In 1962, I didn't have the luxury of expensive health retreats. I had the necessity of being sharp enough to survive. Your brain requires high-quality fats and clean energy to maintain the monk mode focus we've established. When you stabilize your blood sugar, you stabilize your emotions. The brain fog that makes you reach for your phone or skip your morning workout begins to lift. You'll start to feel a level of cognitive clarity that feels like a superpower simply because everyone else is too drugged on junk food to compete. You're no longer eating for pleasure. You are eating for the mental edge required to kill your old self. If you can't control what goes into your mouth, you will never control your destiny. Clean the engine or stay exactly where you are. By day 7, the novelty is gone. The adrenaline of starting a new journey has evaporated, and you are left face to face with the ugly reality of withdrawal. This is the 7-day wall. It is the exact moment most people quit because their brain begins to bargain. It will tell you that you've done enough, that one social media check won't hurt, or that a single cheat meal is a fair reward for a week of discipline. This is a lie designed to keep you weak. Your brain is literally rewiring itself, and like any addict, it is screaming for its old fix. In 1962, when I was in the trenches of debt and grief, I didn't have the luxury of listening to my feelings. Feelings are the enemies of progress. When you hit this wall, you must understand that the pain you are feeling is the sound of your old, mediocre self dying. Most people live their entire lives avoiding this discomfort, which is why most people stay unrecognizable to their own potential. You don't need a pep talk. You need to endure the boredom of the grind. This is where the separation happens. While the world looks for an exit, you look for more weight to carry. If you can push through the next 48 hours without flinching, you break the back of your old habits. The wall isn't there to stop you. It's there to keep out the people who don't want it as badly as you do. Silence the internal negotiator and keep moving. The only way out is through. Once you have broken through the wall, you finally have the bandwidth to build. Most people spend their lives being busy, but busy is just a lazy substitute for being productive. You have stopped the bleeding and cleared the fog. Now you must weaponize that reclaimed energy. Welcome to skill hypergrowth. For the next 2 weeks, you're not just working, you are obsessing. You identify one high-value, rare skill, the kind that the market actually pays for, and you dedicate 4 hours of your monk mode to mastering it with surgical intensity. Hard work without a specialized skill is just manual labor. You must practice what is known as deliberate practice, the kind that makes your brain ache. You push yourself to the very edge of your capability, failing, correcting, and repeating until the skill becomes a part of your nervous system. Most people treat their career like a hobby, doing just enough to not get fired. You're going to treat these 4 hours like a war for your future. If you obsess over a high-leverage skill while your competition is distracted by their phones, you don't just get ahead, you make them irrelevant. You aren't just looking for a job. You are building an asset that you can trade for freedom. Focus is your currency. Spend it on something that compounds. By the time you reach the end of this 21-day sprint, your value to the world will have shifted fundamentally. You are becoming too good to be ignored. As you begin to see results, a dangerous instinct will kick in, the urge to tell everyone. You want to post about your 5 a.m. wake-up calls, brag about your clean diet, and seek validation for the work you've done. You must kill that instinct immediately. Welcome to the void of silence. Most people fail because they mistake the dopamine hit of talking about their goals for the satisfaction of actually achieving them. They broadcast their intentions to get a good job from people who are still stuck in the rut, and that cheap praise trickles away the hunger they need to finish the job. True power is quiet. In 1962, I didn't need a cheering section to know I was climbing out of the hole. The results were the only validation I required. When you talk about your progress, you leak the internal pressure that drives you. You become a mental performer rather than a physical producer. By moving in total silence, you create a psychological vacuum that can only be filled by the next day's work. You don't need their likes, and you certainly don't need their permission. In fact, if the people around you aren't confused by your sudden disappearance, you aren't working hard enough. Let them wonder. Let them think you've gone crazy or changed. You have changed. You are building a new life behind closed doors, and the first time they should see it is when it's already a finished masterpiece. The void of silence ensures that your energy is spent on execution, not explanation. Work in the dark so you can eventually own the light. By day 14, you are standing at the most dangerous intersection of this entire process. You have 2 weeks of momentum behind you. Your skin is clearer, your mind is sharper, and the invisible rot has started to recede. This is exactly when your ego will try to assassinate your progress. It will whisper that you've earned a break, that you've proven you can do it, and that one night of indulgence is a well-deserved reward. This is the midpoint crisis, and it is a trap designed for the weak. In 1962, I didn't stop once I saw the first signs of financial error. If I had relaxed the moment I had a few dollars in the bank, I would have stayed a man who was one disaster away from ruin. Most people are seasonal winners. They work hard until they feel good, then they stop. But you aren't trying to feel good. You're trying to be unrecognizable. If you reward your discipline by returning to the very habits that destroyed you, you aren't celebrating. You are relapsing. You are telling your brain that the old, toxic life is the prize, and this new, powerful life is the punishment. Break the cycle. The reward for the work is the work itself. The reward for 14 days of discipline is the strength to do day 15. Your brain is looking for an exit because the pressure of being great is becoming heavy. Let it be heavy. Carry it. If you can stare down the urge to self-sabotage today, you prove that the old version of you is finally dead. There are no rewards for halfway done. Finish the 21 days or admit you were never serious about changing. By the time you reach the final week, the internal shift is complete, but your external world is likely still reflecting a person who no longer exists. You cannot house a high-performance engine in a rusted chassis. Welcome to the aesthetic shift. This is where you bring your environment and your physical presence into alignment with a new code you've written over the last 17 days. In 1962, as I clawed my way out of debt, I didn't just change my bank account. I changed my standards. I stopped carrying myself like a victim of circumstance and started acting like the architect of $1 billion future. You must clean your space with the same surgical precision you used on your diet. A cluttered room is a cluttered mind. If you are surrounded by the relics of your stagnant self, piles of unfinished projects, old clothes that represent a lazier version of you, or a workspace that invites distraction, you are inviting the invisible rot back into your life. Throw away the garbage. Organize your tools. Your environment should be a frictionless launch pad for your new skills. Then, look at the mirror. If you want to be unrecognizable, you must carry yourself with the quiet authority of someone who has stared down their own weaknesses and won. Stand taller. Speak less. Groom yourself as if you are preparing for the most important meeting of your career, because you are meeting your future self. When your external reality matches your internal discipline, the transformation becomes permanent. You are no longer trying to be different. You simply are. The person who lived in this house 20 days ago is gone. Ensure that when people see you on day 21, they don't just see a better version of you. They see a stranger. Today is day 21. You have survived the shock, endured the void, and emerged from the silence. But here is the most important lesson of all. This was never a 21-day challenge. It was a reconstruction of your soul. Most people will treat this as a finish line. They'll take a deep breath, congratulate themselves, and slowly allow the invisible rot to seep back in. They think they can go back to being normal now that they've achieved a result. But if you go back to being the person you were on day 0, you will eventually end up exactly where that person was, stagnant, invisible, and full of regret. The person you have become over the last 3 weeks is your new baseline. The 5 a.m. wake up, the surgical focus, the clean fuel, and the relentless skill acquisition are no longer things you do. They're who you are. In 1962, I didn't stop being disciplined once I had my first $10,000. I used that discipline to turn 10,000 into billions. Discipline isn't a temporary tax you pay for success. It is the operating system of a high-value life. You now possess the three massive advantages. You have nothing to fear because you've already conquered your own weakness. You have an emergency wall of discipline, and you have a plan that works. Don't be the person who nods along to this advice and then slides back into the comfort of the crowd. The crowd is broke, tired, and distracted. You're none of those things anymore. You have the blueprint. You have the momentum. Now, take this baseline and build a life that no one, including your old self, could have ever imagined. The transformation is complete. Now, the real work begins.